You are Locked On Notre Dame POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. My name's Joe George, host of the POSTCAST shows here for Locked On Irish, Bulls, Notre Dame, and Bears football games. Of course, Cubs games eventually as well when they get the season rolling around here. The Irish win 35-14 over Virginia to move to 9-1 on the season. Another easy win for the Irish. Like, they're not really being tested in a major way right now. We're seeing really positive things from the offense and both the defense right now. A lot of takeaways to get to in this game. So we'll kind of go through quickly, what this easy W was and how the Irish were able to get it done. Our key takeaways from the game. Really, it's ironic to put it that way because I think the takeaways is a key part of the Irish win over Virginia. And then we'll take a look, kind of like the rest of the season, 2 games left on the year versus Army and USC, and kind of asking the question if this is just what we should expect to see, and maybe a quick look at what's gone on today in college football and the playoff rankings, and see if Notre Dame will have some movement in those rankings, at least as we record and do this show live here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Joe George, longtime Notre Dame fan. Let's get into it. So easy win for the Irish, 35-14. They're up 35-0 at one point in this game. Virginia scores the last 14 points. So first thing from this game, I would expect to see the Irish as part of Bad Beats on Scott Van Pelt on ESPN this week. It looks like the line closed at 21.5. Notre Dame wins by 21 with that last possession there. I didn't have money on this game, but I'm watching it and trying to see if Notre Dame is going to, for the people who had the 21.5 point spread, if they were going to get that stop on 3rd and 4th down. They didn't, but what does it really matter? Like, that's not what this show is really about. This show is about the Irish, and they easily got the game. It starts in a really weird way. So I'm watching this game from a sports book, and they didn't have the game on right away. So I had to go up there, ask what's happening, and all of a sudden, so Notre Dame's got the ball. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, I'm looking at the box score, and I'm like, did Virginia get a pick? So I finally found it on Twitter. What a bizarre way to start this game for the Irish. This muffed kick return thing that was just called down. What a weird sequence to start the game. But Notre Dame comes out. They get to 3rd down. They don't convert, but a penalty occurs, and then they get that first touchdown of the game. So a 4-play, 25-yard drive. Jeremiah Love gets a 4-yard rushing touchdown. That moves him to tied for second all-time with names like Jerome Bettis for most consecutive games with a rushing touchdown in Notre Dame school history. Has a chance to tie it next week at 11 and then beat it the week after with 12. Feel pretty confident that one's going to happen, and that that record of most games with a rushing touchdown will be held by Jeremiah Love by the end of the season. From there, it kind of turns into a punt fest a little bit. I mean, it's just punt, turnover on downs, and then a bunch more punts until Virginia fumbles it. They fumble the ball and give it to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame comes out with a 9-play, 88-yard drive. Really impressive drive from the Irish in that one. You get a little bit of everything. You get the Jeremiah Love rushes. You get Riley Leonard completing passes, early on to Mitchell Evans. So really, they grinded the clock right there in that possession. It only took 3 minutes and 42 seconds off, but compared to what everything else has been, 9 plays, 88 yards is a very good drive. Back-to-back punts again for both teams, and then Virginia comes out, and then they just start throwing picks at the end of the second half. They go pick, Notre Dame touchdown, pick, Notre Dame touchdown, pick, Notre Dame missed field goal, and Notre Dame is up 28-0 at the end of the first half. And at that point, we knew the game was over then. We knew the Irish had this thing in the bag. Really, the only question would be was if you had the number, if you were looking at the spread, saying would they cover it. Obviously, like we started the show with, they did not. But really just taking advantage of easy and key opportunities in this game. Now, the second half starts, and Riley Leonard comes out, and they've got 6 plays. They're moving the ball a little bit here. They got 2 first downs. They get to a 3rd and 3, and then Riley Leonard gets picked off. Definitely the kind of the one blemish on today. I mean, I really didn't even talk about these 2 penalties at the end of the second half where they had a 78-yard passing touchdown called back by penalties, a 73-yard punt fake punt that was called back for an illegal formation. So back-to-back plays, I think it was. These 78 and 73-yard touchdowns are called back for the Irish. This is a weird thing. I don't know how people listening will take this or feel about this. I don't love wasting a trick punt, a fake punt on a team like Virginia. If I'm Marcus Freeman and company, I'm saving that thing. I'm keeping it in my bag for a game that matters a little bit more. But you know what? It was nice to see it. Now teams are going to have to prep for that every single week. So after the interception, the defense just does what it's been doing all day long. They force a 3-and-out, and then you get the 76-yard rushing touchdown from Jeremiah Love to put this thing to 35-0. And then from there, Virginia scores twice. Notre Dame does miss another field goal on a 12-play, 24-yard drive that took 6 minutes and 12 seconds off the clock. So you have 2 missed field goals in this game, but it's not the end-all be-all. Like, because the way the game ended, I don't feel like that's a major concern at this point in time. Others might, not agree. You want to see those obviously go through the uprights. But 2 missed field goals in this game and the Riley Leonard interception are really the only things that I would point to and say that stands out as any kind of negative as Notre Dame moves to 9-1 on the season. On senior night, has a very just good day for the Irish. And Marcus Freeman in this game, he now moves to he ties for the most wins of all time in the first 3 seasons as the head coach of Notre Dame. So this is what you expect, right? Like, this is what you expect to see for the Irish when they're playing a game, a team like Virginia, what they did last week versus Florida State, what they did against Navy. Like, they're just going out and winning at will. And it's important because when you look at the college football playoff rankings and kind of the chaos that's going to unfold around you, you are now firmly in the grasp of hosting a playoff game in your home stadium, and someone like an Ole Miss or something like that coming to Notre Dame to take on the Irish in the first round of the playoffs. So while they're not playing, the highest of quality of opponents, there are things that I think we can learn that are important about this team, specifically the defense. I mean, I'll put it this way. I think the defense, like what we see in this game, is they are a Final Four level defense, which I'm curious if they're going to kind of brand it that way as the Final Four in the college football playoff, but they're a Final Four level defense. They're not playing the best competition, but they're not letting down in these moments. They are just finding ways to force turnovers, to get 3-and-outs, and they're just really stuffing the teams that they're playing with ease. So I think that does matter. Like, there is talent in Virginia. They're not a great team, but they're a team that's now 5-5 on the year, fighting for a bowl bid. And Notre Dame just shut them down this entire game. So that's a good takeaway from the defense. At this point, watching a game like today, I think it's firm to say once again, your running game is a Final Four level running game, and your passing game. Like, you got a lot from that too in this game, where they just continue to take advantage of the small things. And that's what we're going to talk about here in this next segment. If you're watching right now here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button to go live after every single Notre Dame game. Started this up about, more than midway through the season after the Notre Dame game, so we're still pretty fresh here. But we'll be going live after every single Notre Dame game through the regular season, and hopefully a bunch of these during the college football playoff as well. So hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, where you get your audio. The audio is also available for Locked On Irish, available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get it. So coming up next, key takeaways from this game after an easy win. But there are some important things to highlight in this game that we're going to talk about next year. It is the Locked On Sports Irish POSTCAST and Locked On Sports Chicago. My name's Joe George. Let's talk about these key takeaways next. The holidays are right around the corner. My wife and I were, doing a long drive on a Friday night, as getting ready for kind of a weekend away from the kiddo, and hanging out with some friends. This weekend we were starting to put together a Christmas list. I might have to add this to my Christmas list. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it even easier to deliver the perfect gift with thoroughly curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners here get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. All right, key takeaways from this game that I think we should focus in on. Look, when you win 35-14 and that last time touchdown was a garbage time touchdown, I think as we've started the show, this might be the lowest margin of victory for Notre Dame as we've done 3 of these postcasts. So like they're just handling these teams left and right, which is important. Like we saw what happened against Northern Illinois this year, why they have a 1 loss on their record, why it's not almost a lock that they're going to be the 5 seed, but they've won in the 3 shows that we've done for Notre Dame. They've won 51-14, 52-3, and 35-14. Kind of felt like they let off the gas in the second half where they only scored, 1 touchdown in the second half. So they could have done a lot more damage, put up another 50 burger if they wanted to. But some key takeaways. So I think that what matters the most, if you're a new listener, one of the things that I've been pointing to with Notre Dame is that style points, I think, do matter for the Irish. Just to secure their playoff berth, which I think they obviously have, being the 8th seed at this point. You just want to make sure that they're consistently getting wins and they're making things nice and easy for, the committee to say, hey, Notre Dame's dominating everyone that's in front of them. They have a harder strength of schedule than teams like Indiana. We are going to ignore this 1 loss and keep them where they belong, which is having a home game in the college football playoff. But I think the most important part of this game for the Irish is really 4 possessions. And one of them doesn't end up with points because it's a missed field goal. We kind of mentioned them there at the end of the last segment. But when you look at this game and you say, okay, to prove to me that you can just do the important things, I think that says to me scoring off of turnovers. And clearly they did that very effectively in this game. We saw it on the first possession. They get the touchdown from Jeremiah Love. They get a touchdown after Virginia throws an interception. That one was the touchdown pass to Jaden Harrison. Then they throw another interception. And that is where Riley Leonard finds Cooper Flanagan in this game. And then you get the one to Mitchell Evans, I believe it was. Yep, Mitchell Evans for another touchdown after another interception. So that's what matters. And then Virginia throws that last one, and Notre Dame misses a field goal as time expires at the end of the second quarter. But that's how Notre Dame's going to prove, to me, part of what just like the confidence level heading into the college football playoff is you got to take advantage. Like, you're playing a bad football team. You're going kind of punt for a while in the early parts of this game after your opening possession. So the offense is kind of stagnant early on. They're not pushing the ball down the field. Like, I'm hoping that they will still do this season. The running game's not having, major success. But then Virginia starts giving you the ball. You guys score touchdowns. I think that's what separates, good or even average teams to great teams, specifically in the college football playoff. Like, if Notre Dame is playing a team like Ole Miss in the playoff and Jackson Dart, throws the Irish an interception, a field goal is just not going to cut it. Because, look what happened to Ole Miss last week. They throw a pick, Georgia scores, and then Ole Miss ends up running away with that thing in that game. So you have to score touchdowns after being given the ball by the opposing team. I think that's just an important thing to watch for the Irish in this game and going forward. And it's just a thing that you ask for from your offense. I mentioned there that, I think the defense at this point, I would say, is top 4 worthy, a Final Four worthy. Jeremiah Love continues to impress. It's so clearly the strength of this team where you can have, whether it's Price, Leonard, Williams, or Jeremiah Love, you can get guys running the ball effectively, at any point in this game. Riley Leonard averaged 4 yards a rush. Jadarian Price, 7.3 on only 6 carries, but for 44 yards. Jeremiah Love helped out by a 76-yard touchdown, but he averages 8.6 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns on the day. I mean, you get 2 touchdowns from Jeremiah Love, 3 from Riley Leonard in the air. You can't ask for much more from the Notre Dame offense in this one. Another key takeaway for me, this is important, and only 34 yards on the day. The Irish aren't pushing the ball down the field too much. But as I think about the long-term success of the Irish and what playoff success would look like, playoff wins would look like, I really think one of the keys here is Mitchell Evans and getting him more actively involved in the offense. 4 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown. On the touchdown drive, he had 2 catches of his 4, I believe it was, on that one. So just continuing to get him involved in the offense is huge. But Riley Leonard, connected on 22 pass completions in this game to 11 different guys. So that's a positive again from Riley in this one, where they're not pushing the ball down the field. And I still feel like I felt like this last week and the week before, but I do feel like this stretch of games where Notre Dame will be favored by 20 plus points in all of them was kind of like a not preseason level of chance, but it was a good opportunity to try to stretch the ball down the field more than they have done. So that is something that kind of bums me out a little bit. I want to he does have the ability to do it. So just seeing more chances down the field is something I would just still like to see. Just not because they need it to win, but just because I think you want to have the threat level of Riley Leonard throwing the ball deep down the field. It would just be a really nice and good thing for them to have. But look, when you're running the ball like this and we're distributing the ball through the air, 22 targets or 22 completions to 11 guys, it's a huge win for Notre Dame today. And also with Riley, 22 with 33, the 1 pick. Maybe I kind of picked on him a little bit last week. I feel like or in frustration, which is the completion percentage. It's probably just who he is at this point. He's not going to be a 70% guy, but he completed 66% of his passes. But he's completed 51%. That number is not correct because in November, because it doesn't include today's game, I don't believe. But so Riley has a good day. And what I kind of like about this one too is that as you think about the end of the season, you want to be healthy going into it. And we've seen obviously on the defensive side, the injuries pile on a little bit for the Irish. So in a game like this where you don't have to run Riley Leonard a ton to help get a victory, I think it's just it's a good win for your team because you're just not putting him at risk. Because even though we've seen Angeli come in and be good and throw the ball well, you don't want to see your quarterback get hurt in a game like this where you're really just controlling it from beginning to end. The defense was all over the place. I mean, Virginia really had no answer in this game. Musket throws for 103 yards, but the receiver Fields had 81 of those receiving yards. 172 yards because Colin Dreo, however you say it, had 69 passing yards as well. So 2 quarterbacks throw for 172 yards in this game. But obviously, Colin Dreo threw, I think that's how you say it, 3 picks in this one. So you hold the team again to less than 200 receiving yards passing yards in a game when you only have 214, but when you're on the winning side of it and you're running the ball for 234 yards, it just does not matter. So you got everything you could have asked for in the offense, and the defense just shut it down again. I mean, Virginia, it kind of felt like this is just a game where they had no answer. I mean, you only had 2 sacks in this game for the Irish, so you're not, getting to the quarterback at a crazy pace, but they're trying to run the ball, they're trying to pass the ball, and they're just not able to do anything. So this was a win, I would say, as expected for the Irish in this game. All right, when we get back, we'll talk about kind of the rest of the season from today's perspective, Army, USC, college football playoff implications of this game next year. It is the Locked On Irish Postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel.
Today's episode is presented by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All right, my pick this week, I'm not going to lie, I hate it. I do, because I'm taking the Chicago Bears plus 5.5 against the Green Bay Packers. I know that rooting for Caleb Williams, just that in itself, is painful. And I know that the Chicago Bears had maybe the most pitiful performance of all time last week. But they got rid of their offensive coordinator. Everyone is betting on the Packers. So you know what? I'm going to go against the public. I'm going to ride with the Bears here. There's a good chance I regret this later on. But you can go to FanDuel.com and back me with the Bears at plus 5.5. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
We here at Locked On Sports Chicago do not endorse that message of Tyler slandering the Chicago Bears. And he's probably right. I would not be. I'm surprised to hear him pick to bet on the Bears this weekend. We'll be doing a live postcast show for Bears Packers as well after that game. So just back to this one, though, as the Irish win 35-14. It's funny, as I'm sitting there watching these games, I'm like, man, there's just not a lot to really take away from these games, which is, I think that's a good thing for the Irish. I don't want to be sitting here stressed watching a Notre Dame game the rest of the season. That's what my expectations are for the next 2 weeks, that when you play Army, even though they're 9-0, look, you're playing at Yankee Stadium. It's kind of it's a cool environment. But if you look at ESPN.com's matchup predictor, even though they're 9-0, they're number 24 in the playoff rankings right now. If you look at the analytics for ESPN, it says Notre Dame has an 88.6% chance to win this game. I would expect this line to be around 20 points once again. And then you play USC the last week of the season, and I don't think that game's going to be ultra competitive. As we were doing the show live, looks like they're going to take down Nebraska to get another win under their belt. But these are just not, unfortunately for the Irish, not that it really matters because you can't have a top 4 seed in the playoff, but unfortunately for the Irish, the NIU lost, and then the way your schedule played off, no one's really going to take you seriously. So I think the only way for people to take you seriously is to continue doing what you've done the last really 3 weeks and really the majority of this season. I mean, really since the game against Louisville, who was ranked at the time, you've won 49-7, 31-13, 51-14, 52-3, and 35-14. Notre Dame has done a good job of just putting their opponents in the place where they kind of belong, and that is at the bottom of the barrel, at least in terms of comparing what the talent-wise, team skill-wise is for the Irish. So I think that's what's been the most impressive part of this season, that if you take away NIU and you think back to the first game of this defense, the first game of the season, the defense has been stifling really the entire year. And even against NIU, I'm not going to pin that on, the defense when they only lost 16-14. But they've just answered the bell in a really, big way for this entire year. So do I expect this the rest of the season? I think the easy answer to that is yes. I don't think Army will really be able to hang with the Irish. I don't expect USC. If I was going to pick, I'd probably pick USC just because I still think Lincoln Riley is a good coach. So of the teams that's going to hang with Notre Dame and keep it competitive. But Army, they're a lot like Navy in a way. They're just beating a lot of really bad teams, but they struggled to beat North Texas last week 14-3. So I just don't have high expectations for Army next week. I expect, here live on Locked On Sports Chicago next Saturday to be doing another kind of game like this where we are thinking about the future and the impact of the quality and the way in which Notre Dame won versus anything else that happened in the game. So health is what matters the most. Winning games like this is what matters the most. And then, just from today's perspective in terms of the college football playoff rankings, honestly, as we record this, as we go live, nothing chaotic has happened. As I do this, the Tennessee-Georgia game has not occurred. I really don't think the winner of that game will impact it much. So I expect Notre Dame to still be sitting at 7 or 8 on Tuesday night when they put out the rankings again. That might be even their ceiling because, these teams might just jump Notre Dame if they beat each other. I was not confident last week that Georgia would fall behind Notre Dame. I didn't know how they were going to treat Miami after their loss last week, but look, a home playoff game would be sick. It would be awesome to have a home playoff game for the Irish. I would love to see if there was a way, in a dream scenario, to see Notre Dame crawl their way up to the 5 seed, because I think whether you're playing, Boise State, who Ashton Genty's obviously, he's awesome, but you're playing a lower level opponent, and then you're playing the worst of the top 4 conference champions in the second round of the playoff, and then obviously you're playing the 1 seed. But in terms of the first 2 games, it is I think the best path to that Final Four goes through the 5 seed. Oh, it's just gonna be a little bit tougher for everyone else that does it. But easy win, good win for Notre Dame. They did a really good job in this one. Riley Leonard gave you everything you could have wanted. You can nitpick an interception. I'm not going to on a day like today. Jeremiah Love, big-time game, 76-yard rushing touchdown, tied for second all-time in terms of consecutive games scored with the rushing touchdown. He's at 10 with the likes of Jerome Bettis. Can tie number 1 next week with 11 straight games and then break it the week after against USC. Marcus Freeman ties for third all-time for most wins, or tied for, I think it was for the most wins in the first 3 seasons as the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So good win for the Irish. Thanks for checking us out. We are live here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel for postcast shows after every single Notre Dame game throughout this season, the regular season, the postseason, and beyond into next year football games at least. Every Bears game, every Bulls game, and Cubs game when baseball gets back. Hit that subscribe button to Locked On Sports Chicago for all of those postcast shows, and hit that subscribe button as well, and hit the follow button at Joe George 92 on Twitter. But Locked On Irish Locked On Irish, wherever you get your audio, whether it's through Spotify, Apple, wherever you get it, you can hit there, and the audio will be available as soon as the game is over. Tyler does a great show Monday through Friday as well. So thanks for hanging out with us. Hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you, if you're a Bears fan, on Sunday after the game against the Green Bay Packers, and for Notre Dame fans next weekend after they play Army. Peace.